First look at Stranger Things Season 5. They probably could fit right into the roles, to be honest. It's Saturday, I'm Akorn, and today we're dusting off memories older than your first AOL password. Hit that like and subscribe, and let's dive into today's show. When your father is yelling at you about being irresponsible on your way to school, and you're waiting to tell him that you forgot your book bag at home, just forget it, man. Don't even say anything. You just have to deal with it that day. The craziest part from Home Alone was that Kevin got all those groceries for $19. Yeah, these days, for $19, it might not even pay the taxes. And if you bought $19 worth of groceries, it would definitely fit in one bag. Yellow Wendy's used to hit different. Yeah, and so did everything else back then, because at least it still had mostly real ingredients, unlike today. What people think the 80s looked like. What they actually looked like. Back when the wood paneling wasn't quite as dark yet. Don't talk about loyalty if you don't know who this kid is. Yep, that is very true. How to check a price. Turn on the location services on your phone for the best results. No, if it's too difficult for you to show a price, then I'm certainly not going to waste my time jumping through hoops to find one. I fully agree. Falling through this thing was like a game of human plinko. Yes, it was. Of course, there were some of them that didn't have near that many bars, and if you fell from the top, you might just hit the ground first before you hit anything else. Dave Grohl says there's one thing missing from possible Nirvana reunion. Gonna take a stab in the dark here and say, Kurt Cobain? He does have a point. Getting older ain't the problem. Watching the world get dumber is. That is true in many ways. Speaking of AOL, with a final screech, AOL's dial-up service goes silent. One of the earliest consumer internet options, AOL dial-up service was once the most common way for people to access the early web. Yep, that's right, guys. The screech of dial-up from AOL was heard for the last time on September the 30th, 2025. When I was young, this was a 5-star dessert. We always thought so, at least. I never actually tried one before. I've had some similar memes to this one on the channel in the past, and you guys kind of seem to be split. Some of you liked it, some of you didn't. We're coming up to Catherine O'Hare season. They're not wrong. I think the 1965 through 70 Mustangs had the best body style. As a matter of fact, my favorite car of all time is actually either a 67 or a 68 Mustang Fastback. It's been 140 years, and Doc is still fresh. The Eagles were right. We are all just prisoners here of our own device. It certainly seems that way, that's for sure. A kid today will tell you this is a pizza thingy, and 80s kids will tell you this is furniture for Barbie and G.I. Joe. Imagine we all switched to cursive writing and stick shift cars again. We could totally confuse an entire generation. I think we could do a lot more than just confuse them, to be honest. 2025. Big SUV, curtain airbags, rear-facing 5-point harness, booster seat, anti-lock brakes. When we were kids, try and hold on to something when we go over the bumps. Yeah, and that was the truth of it too. And we loved every minute. Jeff Goldblum, 2025. Jeff Goldblum, 1986. Never judge a book by its cover. Except that one. Seriously, put it down. Things that were normal in the 80s, but are socially unacceptable today. Okay, for the sake of the video, I'm gonna have to limit this just to one, because this list could never end, honestly. With that said, how about just telling someone the truth? That's pretty much socially unacceptable these days. Somehow, Willie Nelson looks the least stoned out of this group. Somehow, that's actually true. I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, now hiring. Inquire within. Got firewood? Yep, you better. It could be a very long winter, so you gotta have a lot of firewood to get through it. There is a generation who won't get this, and that's sad. Yeah, that is pretty sad, really. With that said, I don't know if you guys have heard, but apparently there is a new Tremors movie in the works. The company that made the original Tremors movie now has the rights back to it, and there's also the possibility that Kevin Bacon is going to return.
Touch of blue right down here. Just let it dance. Whoa! Hello there, partner. I guess he wants to sign the painting. Look at that.
If you had him, what would you name him? I think I'd call him Bruce, because depending on the conversation, you could say it's Bruce Wayne or Bruce Banner. Remember when appliances had zero smart features and they just worked forever? Yeah, and that's why they quit building them that way too. They don't want anything to last. They want you to go buy a new one as soon as the warranty runs out. When you wake up without a hangover. Meanwhile, in an 80s Friday night, why are Tums not shaped like this? That's actually a good question. Tums should think about this. Here's another question. Why aren't there Flintstone Senior vitamins? If companies knew our generations at all, that's one of the things they'd be selling. If you know what a potato, a needle, and an ice cube do, you're old as dirt. Chuck Norris built the hospital he was born in. It feels weird being the same age as old people. If you eat this, you might as well just eat this. What do you guys think? Is this true? It's been a long time since I've ate any mint chocolate chip ice cream. I hate it when I see some old person and then realize we went to high school together. From what I read, this was a Zenith dealer TV parts sales case. This is what they took with them either when they were making service calls or to sell the parts to other dealers or even stores.
I am a musician. I don't sample. It's not Memorex. I go on stage and my microphone is on.
What?
I wonder what Prince could possibly be referring to here. I just don't have a clue who it could be. Jim Carrey in talks for live-action Jetsons movie. Well, that's one that I wasn't expecting. When your kid wants to be both a hot dog and Michael Myers. That was how Oscar Myers was born. I was today years old when I found out Michael Keaton was the trolley operator on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Well, that's something I never knew. New appliances. Breaks within 2 years. 1970s refrigerator. I will outlive you and everyone you love. Put me in your garage as a drink fridge, and I will be eternal. Yeah, I have a drink fridge over in my barn right now. And even though that fridge is from somewhere around the 90s, still runs fine. Wake up tomorrow and the year is 2002. What do you do? Well, that depends. How much money do you have? If I had a little money, I might go buy some gold at around $300 an ounce. How many of you guys remember playing the Atari Pole Position arcade game? My friend just posted this with the caption, "Pickleball," and I can't stop laughing. That almost makes more sense than calling what's basically senior tennis pickleball. I'm no one drank coffee in high school years old. That is a fact check true. As far as I can remember, none of my friends drank coffee. How is the difference between 2025 and 1980 the same as 1980 and 1935? I don't know, but it just ain't right. This is drag racing. This is two idiots arguing over whose lawnmower is faster. How many of you guys remember back when Burger King switched from Coke to Pepsi? At least for a few years there. This stuff absorbed secondhand smoke, Salisbury steak, and 11,000 episodes of Wheel of Fortune. Don't forget The Price is Right. Here's something I came across this week that I thought was pretty interesting about Back to the Future 1. It's the scene where 1955 Doc is setting up the cables at the clock tower. But in the background behind him, we see an out-of-focus person riding by on a bike. He has a black coat, a tan hat, and brown pants. Now, if we skip and go to the Back to the Future 2, you have 1985 Doc. He shows up and sees 1955 Doc setting up, right? And he just happens to be wearing the exact same clothes and riding a bicycle. So the real question is, did they intentionally create a role for this actor who they had playing this background character in Back to the Future 1 just so they could then have it be Doc Brown later in Back to the Future 2? Looking back now, we would think this is obviously the case. However, Back to the Future 1 was not supposed to be a major blockbuster movie. As a matter of fact, it was pushed down the list and rejected multiple times over multiple different reasons and by different people. And even when they did finally start to make the movie, it had a very limited budget. There was a lot of casting issues. The script was apparently being rewritten and changed over and over again. Many of you probably even know that Michael J. Fox wasn't even the original Marty. There was another actor that was playing the role during the first 6 weeks of filming, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out. So, they actually had to start all over again when Michael J. Fox joined the cast and took on the role of Marty. Robert Englund gets his star. Robert will receive his star 11 a.m. Halloween, 6600 block of Hollywood Boulevard. Finally, a Dr. Seuss for seniors. Solid, liquid, or a gas? What will come out of my... That's just messed up. Death once had a near Chuck Norris experience. Most of you will get this. There are no warnings saying ziplining into a pool on your Jeep winch could result in injury or death, so it must be safe. I don't see anything wrong with this. Just don't fall out of the tree, and make sure you let go while you're over the pool and don't just slam into the front of the Jeep. If you used this, you're officially qualified for a senior discount. No, you're not. I went and looked it up just to see when it was, but the PlayStation 1 came out in 1994. Some of y'all millennials are exaggerating a bit. My friend showed me how they fixed the water stain on the ceiling in their office. That's actually pretty good. It might even improve the office morale. It's funny how we grew up without helmets, seatbelts, or sunscreen. Yet, here we are. That is very true. Also, if you really dig in and do some real research on sunscreen, it's actually really bad for you. Everything after this was a mistake. Yes, it was. Can't use your phone in your car because that's too distracting. But having a touchscreen computer built into the dash with 27 different pages just to hear the radio or change the temperature, that's perfectly safe. If you know these two cowboys, you're a true 80s movie buff. I don't know who needs to hear this, but this is not a nightlight. Maybe not today, but it certainly was back in our days. When you're over 50 and the doctor tells you to put ice on where it hurts the most. Well, I hope I never get that bad, but sometimes it does kind of feel that way. The infamous McDonald's coffee stir. Do you believe every school should have a class that teaches you to sew, change a tire and oil, do taxes, first aid, cook, and real-life basics? Yes, 1,000%. And you know, the thing is, I think that a good number of the younger generation would actually take classes like this if they were actually offered. But they don't want kids to know how to do anything these days. You're officially old if you know what this is. Now, just knowing what a set of points is doesn't make you old. What makes you old is if you know how to set and adjust points. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in 1987. Who can remember the name of the guy that's inside the robot suit? Jurassic Park, released 32 years ago, 1993. What are they on now? Jurassic Park 5 or something like that? Here's the official Sesame Street Snuffleupagus. Kids today will never know how hard this symbol goes. An obituary for MTV's music channels. Dead at 40. TikTok killed the MTV star. They must have missed the memo. MTV died a long time ago. I think after this, the only thing left now is MTV's reality shows or whatever. I saw this ad about a week ago. Casio has released a Back to the Future DeLorean time machine watch. It features a fully functional calculator, a flux capacitor blueprint engraving on the back, and an all stainless steel band. Buy one today and have a time machine conveniently located right on your wrist. Replace or add to an 80s song title with the word toilet. How about toilet under pressure? What do you guys think the best one would be? I really hope that pinball machine just wasn't able to be repaired. With that said, it does make a pretty cool stereo cabinet. Somehow, I'd have to change where the score displayed at to show what radio station you're tuned into. You don't get it. The 1980s were more than neon lights and mixtapes. It was about being with your friends, No screens in your face. No worrying about the future. It was just being in that moment and enjoying it. Yeah, all of that ended in the 90s too. She said I couldn't go fishing because I had to mind the baby. Challenge accepted. Yeah, nice catch too. Some kids grew up reading stories about princes and princesses. Meanwhile, we grew up reading these. People are often surprised to hear Jim Varney owned a 1981 DeLorean DMC-12, but Jim had a rather eclectic personality. He purchased one with an all-black leather interior and had it outfitted with a twin-turbo system, which would have been a very expensive upgrade at the time. Another little interesting piece of history. What's the worst car to replace the DeLorean if they remade Back to the Future? There's only one answer for this, really, and that's a Cybertruck. Would you guys agree? Let me know in the comments. Me watches a show called Unsolved Mysteries. Narrator: the case was never solved. Me. I don't care if I'm 5 years old or 55 years old. I will always love watching Tom and Jerry. Classic cartoons. If you remember this milk carton, you had an amazing childhood. Yeah, the bigger cartons had 5,000 BBs. And then you also had just the smaller packs. I used to save up my money and change and things, and you could buy a small pack for a lot less, obviously. However, for the same amount of money, you got fewer BBs. So, I'd always save up my money until I had enough to buy one of the big cartons. It'd last a few days or so. I can't stop laughing at the reasoning for Twister's PG-13 rating. Intense depiction of very bad weather. It was the cow that did it. When the ad says $100 a truckload, that truck looked like it was still in halfway decent shape. I don't know what it'll be after this, but why ruin a good work truck? With that said, winter is coming fast. Hope you got all your firewood ready. This was my multiverse of madness. As a kid, I always hoped the little chuck wagon would burst out of our cabinets. But life is full of disappointments. Yes, it is. Post a band and let others post their best track. What do you guys think the Eagles' best track was? Remember Chucky? This is him now. A 95-year-old woman who loved playing Tetris on her Game Boy was heartbroken when it broke. Her grandson wrote to Nintendo and the company found a new unit in storage, sending it with wishes for many more years of happiness. She kept playing it until she passed away at 99.
Hi, I'm Woodsy Owl. In order to try and stop pollution, we need more help. So, help Woodsy spread the word. Come on, never be a dirty bird. No matter where you go, you can let some people know to give a hoot, don't pollute. Never be a dirty bird. In the city or in the woods, help keep America looking good.
I'm sorry to say, guys, but this is how the narrative for global warming and climate change first began. I mean, seriously, think about it. Even though at that time, most of the messages that they were putting out was about not leaving trash and not polluting, don't burn the forest down, those sorts of things, which all makes perfectly good sense. However, think about where those messages were mostly put out from and who they were giving them to. If you really think about it, the number one places they were pushed was in the schools and on children's television programs and cartoons. And they've been doing the same thing ever since until you end up with the mess that we have today. When this pod comes out, you know you're eating the exact same thing for the next 3 days. That is true, but you're also not wasting a lot of time trying to figure out what you're going to have for supper either. I'm not saying I'm old, but the oldies station isn't playing my parents' favorite jams anymore. They're playing mine. That's sad, but it's true. Come across this the other day. I thought you guys would enjoy it. This guy here has a YouTube channel, and somebody left this reply on one of his videos. Log off, boomer. His reply: I was on YouTube before you were born, and I'll still be here long after you die. Wad that up and smoke it, kiddo. Shout out to the computer desk of the 90s and 2000s. This was very accurate, but they were a pretty good desk if you had a corner of the room to put it in. Michael Myers is after you, and you have to fight him off with the last thing you bought. Let's see. The last thing I bought was dog treats. I don't know how helpful those would be, unless it was just a big pack of stray dogs around. Then you could just throw the whole bag at him and hope they go for it. Superman had the worst disguise. Hold my Gatorade. I wish my bank account refilled as fast as my laundry basket. Man, ain't that the truth. But at least we have the clothes to wash. I came across this one the other day and just thought it was funny. My grandfather used to stand in people's yards around the state and county fairs or the like with a sign that said parking $5 and have people pay him to park in random people's yards. He'd make enough money to go into the fair and have a good day. Hey, whatever you can do to stay out of debt or at least lessen your debt, more power to you. Top things taught to Gen X that are now completely useless. Typing a double space at the end of a sentence. Roman numerals. How to crab walk. Writing a check. How to write in cursive. That skill is certainly not useless. As a matter of fact, might come in pretty handy. Bowling scores on paper. Playing a recorder. Lotus 1, 2, 3. Keeping your wrist bent forward and your arms and hands lifted as you type, because carpal tunnel rocked. The food pyramid. Well, the ones from recent years are certainly garbage. Juggling in gym class. Now this is something I don't remember. Did any of you guys learn to juggle while you were in gym? Square dancing. And number 1, that Pluto was a planet. Well, no matter what they say about Pluto, one thing will never change. Pluto will always be a great dog. They were out of Coke, so I tried some of this Is Dead. Not bad. Needs a peppier name, though. That almost looks like a glass from Pizza Hut. But I know back in the day, Pizza Hut only served Pepsi. Or at least all the ones that we went to did. Do you guys remember if the Pizza Huts that you all went to when you were kids, did they have Coke or Pepsi? We grew up in a generation where parents took breathing hard as back talk. Yes, they certainly did. I'm sorry, but this is still the single greatest movie frame in the entire history of cinema. If you could only choose one single frame out of a movie, this is a pretty good one, that's for sure. But I don't know if it'd be the number one. I think there's a few good contenders out there, but what do you guys think would be the number one? Drop it down in the comments.
Here she goes. Get that. Oh, sorry, Linda. She doesn't want to discuss it. She threw it back in the bag. She stomped off. She struck the producer. She hit a cameraman. We'll be back after this.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that Bob wasn't really happy with this, but he also had to keep the show going because the cameras were rolling. 1963, sprawled on the carpet, toys by your side. lost in the magic of Saturday morning cartoons. Got tired of seeing everyone's boat pics on the weekend. Finally closed the deal on this bad boy. Well, saved a lot of money. That's actually a really good wheel bar too. I have that exact same one. It's sitting in my barn right now because I need to get another coat of boiled linseed oil on the handles before winter gets here. As a child, I could be entertained for hours by just picking these up and letting them spin. Yeah, I remember doing that many times when I was a kid. You can also take a rubber band, or maybe even possibly a slingshot with only a little force, and try to shoot them up in the air higher so it takes longer for them to spin down. The 50s and 60s, the 80s, the 20s. If you call me from a private number, I will respect your privacy and not answer. Yeah, for sure. John Wick is the dark timeline where Ted went to military school. Now you know. The infamous wax paper cups of the 80s and 90s. The design that's on the cup on the right, why does it seem like that design was everywhere back in the day?
Again?
My cat!
Are you sure? Positive?
Bye, kitty!
Uh-oh.
Parents worried non-violent video games turning kids into sissies. The results of a new study on violent video games appear to show that parents are concerned that non-violent video games are turning their kids into sissies. Kids who play non-violent games are reportedly 10 times wimpier than kids who play violent video games, according to the study. When I was his age, I was turning Mecha Hitler into hamburger meat in Wolfenstein, said Philip Anderson, a father whose son served as a study subject. How is Animal Crossing going to prepare him for the harsh realities of life? Look at him. He's watering flowers. How is this a game? I just thought this was pretty funny. Of course, this is from the Babylon Bee, but it's still funny nonetheless. Pizza Hut has me filled with mild rage. Look at how they cut my pizza, man. You just need to borrow their pizza cutter and then cut a line on the right side also, and that way it'll even it up. The top Gen X perils of all time. Pop Rocks and Coke. Exploding Ford Pintos. Swallowing pennies or gum. Acid rain. Getting stuck in an abandoned refrigerator. California falling into the ocean. Still looking for that one. Quicksand and piranha attacks. Kidnappers in white vans. Untied shoelaces on an escalator. The Bermuda Triangle. Cutting off mattress tags, needles with HIV contamination, and razor blades in candy apples or poisoned sweets. I didn't need self-help books. I had a grandma who didn't sugarcoat anything. This is probably what happened when they traveled to 2026. A spectacular view of an iridescent cloud. Dude, that's where the Care Bears live. That's a pretty good explanation, I think. Today's kids have Blippi, Reading Rainbow, and Blue's Clues to read them stories. When we were growing up, we had this guy. Yes, we did. We also had Reading Rainbow with LeVar Burton, though. Too bad he went woke. The dog tags weren't props. They were Jimmy Farr's. Before MASH, Jamie Farr wasn't acting. He was serving. He was drafted in the U.S. Army, trained with the 6th Infantry Division at Fort Ord, and spent 2 years in Korea. Years later, when he stepped onto the MASH set as Corporal Max Klinger, he quietly slipped something around his neck. His real Army dog tags. No one told him to do it. He just wanted to remember. Every laugh, every line, every salute. It all came from someone who had been there, who knew what service and sacrifice meant. Those weren't props. They were a promise to never forget the soldiers who didn't make it home. Jamie Ford didn't just play a soldier, he carried their memory with him every single day. Popular vintage Pyrex patterns. I did not know that they actually had names. However, there's a few patterns that I remember that they don't seem to be showing here. Marvel. Infinity War is the most ambitious crossover event in history. Me. Yep, exactly. My mom always watched Murder, She Wrote. I even ended up watching it a lot. Yep, I'm this old. I've been on Facebook for 16 years. I remember when this was all just farmland. Sarah Connor looking at you fail the CAPTCHA a third time. And then at the end of the CD, there'd be a secret song not listed on the liner notes. I do remember there being a decent number of CDs that did have a secret track at the end of the album. However, I don't really remember any of them being that good. Maybe that's why they kept them secret. I know that all of you clearly remember Publishers Clearinghouse, right? How many of us send in those sweepstakes almost every time we got them, just because there's always that chance that maybe Ed McMahon would show up with that big check at your front door, right? Well, apparently, we all remember seeing the TV commercials, as well as seeing the reaction videos of when they show up at somebody's house, and they open the door, and there's Ed McMahon with a big check and a bunch of balloons, telling you that you won $1 million. There's only one problem, guys. Today, they claim Ed McMahon never worked at Publishers Clearinghouse, nor did he make any commercials for Publishers Clearinghouse. This is the topic that this woman here is talking about. However, she's also found some fragments that apparently got missed. Check out this clip.
All right, first you need to know that I am willing to die on this hill. So if you're going to come in the comments and disagree with me, you better bring it. If you were a kid in the 80s and 90s, your parents got these envelopes in the mail from the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. And you could fill it out and send it in for a chance to win like $1 million. And if you won that $1 million, a guy named Ed McMahon would show up on your porch with a big ass check, some balloons, and a camera crew and knock on your door and film your reaction. We all remember this, right? Wrong. It never happened. Ed McMahon never worked for, made commercials for, or was affiliated with the PCH in any way possible. And the internet is backing this up. You can't find footage of Ed McMahon delivering checks on the internet. It's been wiped from existence. They're saying that we're all wrong. It's something called the Mandela effect, where this large group of people remember something incorrectly and nobody can explain why. His face was on the envelopes. There's even TV shows that referenced this happening.
What?
That was
I'm one of the winners of the Publishers Clearinghouse? Ed McMahon wants to see me right away?
So what, is the entire internet like lying to us? Did they get together with PCH and be like, hey, let's with the whole world and tell them that Ed McMahon never did this? Or did he really never do it and there was a glitch in the Matrix and we are living in a parallel universe? Like, I could not sleep last night. My brain hurts. And I need somebody smarter than me to figure this out. One more time for the people who don't listen. Ed McMahon worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. He delivered big checks to people's front doorsteps, and it has been wiped from the internet. I don't need Google. I don't need YouTube. I lived it. I know what happened. So stop sending me links to old commercials that he did for American Family Prizes. The dude had money problems. He worked a lot of places. I'm not saying he did not work for that company. You showing me that he worked one place does not prove that he did not work another. So take your Google links and shove them up. Now I know what you're thinking. Why would the government or anyone else go through the trouble of wiping Ed McMahon videos off of the internet? I think 100% that this is a social experiment. It's a psychological experiment. People do these all the time. They've done way more f***ed up ones than this. Just ask the guys from 3 Identical Strangers. If you have not seen that, you need to. It's amazing. So in this situation, I do think that they want to see how far they can push us. What will the American public believe if you take away what they knew? And at what point will they stop trusting their own memory and just go with the facts that are presented to them? Because let's be real, that would be a real interesting study. That would be something that would come real handy for lots of different agencies. You can't gaslight me. You can't. I'm ungaslightable.
Bucks, the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes, and they conducted a poll, and they found out the number one reason people don't enter that thing is they say $1 million is not worth the nightmare of meeting Ed McMahon.
I'm trying to win the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. Have to get a big check from Ed McMahon.
No, Ed McMahon, our good friend, could not be here. You are the $1 million winner.
Nice try. Didn't work. Rest in peace, Ed McMahon.
Going down to Blockbuster, perusing the shelves, picking a movie, renting it, and buying snacks was still quicker than finding a film on Netflix. That is a fact check true. I've had Netflix before, been quite some time ago now, but there never really was anything worth watching, which is one reason I canceled it. Macintosh Plus. You know, the only 2 ports that's still the same on a computer today is the power plug and the headphone jack. All the rest were done away with a long time ago. A hidden image of a screaming face can be seen on the knife-wielding hand on the Halloween poster of 1978. I feel like that's something that no one would ever really see until it's pointed out. Now you can't unsee it. Social Security is an entitlement. Entitlement my ass. I paid for my Social Security since I was 16 years old. Our benefits aren't some kind of charity or handout, but take a look at the congressional benefits. Free healthcare, outrageous retirement packages, 67 paid holidays, 3 weeks paid vacation, unlimited paid sick days. Now that's welfare. And Congress has the nerve to call my retirement an entitlement. Yes, they absolutely do, because they know that they've already stolen it all, a long time ago. I'll end today's show with this. My ambition was to be one of the people who made a difference in this world. My hope is to leave the world a little better for having been there. Jim Henson. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider hitting that like and subscribe, and share the videos with your family and friends. But that's it for today's show, but I'll see you guys back here on tomorrow's show. Until then, I thank you all for watching. You guys take care and stay safe this weekend. This is Akorn, over and out.
Ma'am, I stopped you for speeding. You were going 112.
Well, the sign back there said 112.
That is Highway 112, not the speed limit sign.